Hey folks, so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about Eldar keywords, Eldar abilities, and Eldar psychic powers. So talking about the keywords themselves, for Eldar it's Craftworld, that's really significant within the different units, and when you're looking at something like Uriel and his path of command, to be able to affect the Eldar around him, Uriel is part of Yandin, so if you have a Guardian unit near them, you need to make sure that that Craftworld is set to Yandin, so they can take advantage of path of command. Now, when you're talking about stuff like, or I should say units, like Uriel and Eldrad, both are from different Craftworlds. Eldrad's Craftworld is Ulthui, so he won't be able to take advantage of Path of Command, whereas the Guardian unit that you assigned your Yandin, they can. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're building your army and making sure that the units benefit from the powers effectively. So there's a bit of a synergy that you need to think about when it comes to building lists within 8th edition, especially when it comes to keywords. Some armies are a little bit more forgiving than others. When you're talking about the abilities themselves, we're taking a look at Ancient Doom. It's similar to previous editions, but a little bit different. You can reroll failed hit rolls in the fight phase for this unit in a turn which they've either charged or have been charged by a Slaanesh unit. Now, if you've received any casualties and you have to do a morale check for this unit that has Ancient Doom, if you're within 3 inches of a Slaanesh unit, you have to add 1 to your morale roll. Battle focus has really changed, so essentially the unit can shoot in the shooting phase as if it hasn't moved or advanced, as long as it's not holding a heavy weapon. So your assault weapons, your rapid fire weapons, your pistols, those things are totally fine to use pretty much after you advance. So it makes the army very, very powerful. And certain units don't necessarily benefit from it, but they still have their place. Like, say, for example, scatter laser jet bikes. They're not going to be able to take advantage of this because scatter lasers are going to be heavy. But you have a solid fire base with these scatter laser jet bikes, maybe change a few other jet bikes over to shuriken cannons, and those guys can advance and still shoot. So you have a solid fire base and then a mobile quick response unit or something like that. There's going to be a lot of different ways to play around with stuff. My favorite is probably the Swooping Hawks and their ability to advance. So they can move like 14 inches. If you roll a d6, you're lucky enough to get 6, you're going to be rolling 20 inches. So you could essentially jump over a unit, use your grenades, and then still shoot using your rapid fire guns. So I think it makes the army extremely fast, and I think if you focus on those assault weapons and rapid fire weapons, you're going to be really take advantage of the speed, but there's still going to be places for those heavy weapons sitting back as a fire base to be able to take out units at long range. So that's pretty much the abilities. Let's take a look at the different psychic powers. Now, I played around with Farseers, I played around with Warlocks, and I'm leaning towards the Warlocks, but I still need a little bit more experience with the units on the table and playing around with different things. But for the cost and being able to get Warlocks on the table plus additional units, because it's like 100 points difference almost when you're going from a Warlock to a Farseer. I like that the psychic powers for the Farseers, Guide still there, Doom still there, Fortune still there. Guide, that's going to only help your ranged weapons, so your reroll misses. So that's nice. But it was always nice being able to take advantage of that in close combat too. But right now we're just going off of hits, so it's still pretty significant if you really need those hits to get in there. Stuff like Doom is very powerful still. You can reroll those failed wounds against units until your next psychic phase. So that's very powerful. Doom has always been an extremely powerful psychic ability and something I really liked running. Fortune is a little bit different now. Instead of rerolling saves, how Fortune works is until the next psychic phase, whenever you suffer a wound, you're going to be rolling a d6, and on a 5+, you ignore that wound. So it's still pretty powerful, but certain units that already have similar abilities are not going to be able to take advantage of it. So I think they kind of maybe brought it in line with other abilities within the edition, but I do miss the idea of being able to reroll saves. That was always really nice. It was pretty powerful though. So I get what they're doing there. So that's the Farseers. Now, when you're taking a look at the Runes of Battle discipline, I really like the Warlock ones a little bit better because you get a cheap Warlock on there, and they can run around kind of buffing up some units close to them or debuff some that you really need to take down. Again, Doom is really powerful for that too, but I still need to play around with a few things. So when we're talking about Conceal and Reveal, you're essentially going to be giving a +1 to your saves for your unit, or you can remove all the units cover that you're targeting an enemy unit. So I really like that, especially for units like snipers, because snipers are going to be pretty important within this edition if you want an army to be able to take out specific characters. But we'll see how that pans out. We might see. It all depends on what your meta is for your area. Maybe a Farseer might be better for it. We'll see. When we're talking about Embolden and Horrify, you're basically boosting up your units to be able to be a little bit better for handling morale. So you can add 2 to your leadership, or you can subtract 1 from an enemy's leadership, which is kind of nice if you have something like a Hemlock flying around. It's already has a -1 bubble. You really need something to like a horde you're fighting against. Take a bunch of wounds on it, use the Hemlock's bubble, and use that psychic ability on an enemy unit. That you're going to be dropping it down by 2. Have another Hemlock flying around. You're going to be potentially dropping it by 4. That's huge. So I really like these runes of battle myself for how I've been using my armies at least. Now when we're talking about Enhance and Drain, still pretty good. Adding 1 to your hit rolls, which is always nice, being able to get those hits in, and then of course having the units when they're in the fight phase, subtracting 1 from their hit roll is always nice too. So of course choosing between one of those, either casting on your unit or on the enemy unit. So overall I think I think I'd like the Warlocks only because I can get more units on the table, and they're pretty flexible. But I still love Doom. Doom is incredible. So if you can squeeze in a Warlock and a Farseer, you can have an incredible amount of synergy going on there, and a really good buff debuff unit flying around. Even getting 2 Warlocks on the table and a Farseer, oh, the things that you can do. One thing to keep note of is when we talk about the Warlocks is their smite is a little bit weaker than the smite that you would have with your regular Farseers. So that's something to keep in mind when you're choosing your units. So with that said, that pretty much covers the keywords, the abilities, and the psychic powers. I hope you guys enjoyed this piece, and I really want to know what you guys prefer. Do you guys prefer Farseers over Warlocks based on these powers as they are right now? What have your experiences been with Fortune? Has it been really beneficial? So just to make mention really quickly, we're going to continue the series, go into some other units from here on in, but I really wanted to make sure that we talked about the keywords, the abilities, and the psychic power. So with that said, I will talk to you guys later. Bye now.